Hi, welcome in and welcome to your restorative practice today. We'll be working with a short restorative practice that's good for any time of the day. Lots of focus on front body opening, so perhaps this is something that could be nice to do at the end of your day. We'll be using one block, 2 blankets, but these could always be large bath towels or beach towels, and one bolster, and you could also use a firm couch cushion for that bolster. We're going to start in a seated position, and you might even like to use the bolster or firm cushion to sit up on top of. I'm going to sit to let that support my hips, and it looks like we're going to have a cat visitor in here too. Nice as a weighted blanket sometimes. So sitting up tall on your bolster, you might like to choose to close your eyes or leave your eyes open. We'll ground ourselves in the space that we're in, this particular time, this moment in time. Begin to deepen your breath. Allowing for free movement here in the navel center, just right above your belly button as you breathe in and breathe out. We're here for one more cycle of breath. If your eyes are closed, let your eyes open. We're going to create a little neck space, so start by sitting up as tall as you can. We'll take your right arm behind your back, palm will be facing out, and you can bring it across. Maybe it's going to hold onto the opposite bicep. Maybe you'd like to weave the fingers together, interlace them together, and then draw the elbow back. That creates a big opening for the shoulder, really on both sides, just like you're holding hands with yourself here. As you're ready to, you can allow your ear to drop down toward the shoulder and lift back up. Try that again, dropping ear toward the shoulder and lifting back up. We'll do it one more time. And back up. This time let the ear drop toward the shoulder. We'll stay there. And you can explore the space that you're creating in your neck. You might like to roll your chin down toward the ground and then roll it back up to where you started. You might like to go to a certain place where you're feeling a good sensation, something that feels helpful, and stay there. Wherever it is, we'll take one more breath. And lift your head back up, upright, and you can release the hands from where they were. Take a moment to take a breath here. And we'll move on to the other side. Taking your other arm, your left arm behind you, maybe holding on to biceps here, or even just leaving the hand behind, that's fine too. If it's available to you, you could weave the fingers together as we do that, drawing the elbow in, settling the shoulders back and down. We can start dropping the head to the side, your ears dropping down in the direction of the shoulder and lifting it back up. Try that one more time. And this time we'll drop it to the side and we'll stay there, seeking helpful sensation here in the neck. You might like to roll the head, rolling the chin down toward the ground, and then rolling it back to where you started, perhaps doing that a time or two. If it feels more helpful to stay in place, either with the side tilt or side tilt and roll, just staying there, that's fine too, of course. Wherever you are, take one more breath. And we'll lift the head back upright. Release the arms. Give your shoulders a little roll to the back and a little roll to the front. And take a deep breath. So we're going to get started with some of the props, coming down into a supported back bend. My little furry friend here might not be happy when I take some of the props away from him. I'll do my best not to take all your props. We're going to use a bolster under the knees, and now this is going to be your choice if you want a bigger bolster or if you want a smaller blanket. I'm sorry, Mr. Arch, I'm going to need this blanket, please. Please? Thank you. You can have the other one. And I'm going to roll this blanket up. So creating a blanket roll. You can decide how thick you want the roll. I'm going to see how far that's going to go. Make it nice and tight. Now you might like to use your other blanket just to support the head, or perhaps even creating a very small blanket roll to support the space that is between the ground and your neck. I'm going to hook my knees over top of the bolster here and come down into supported back bend. We have done this before using a rolled up mat, which is going to be a little firmer, but we're going to use the blanket here. And I'm going to place the edge of the blanket here just right into my natural waistline, letting the head come back. If it feels like your head is dropping really far back, again, you could use the blanket, or you might use a block underneath your head, especially if your head drops off of this blanket roll. Let the arms come out to the sides. We might keep the arms close to the sides here. We might take them further out. It's possible that we could even put them into cactus arms. Conveniently, my block is right where I could use it on this side. On the other side, my arm is coming all the way down to the ground, so that's fine to leave it there. But certainly pad the arms if you need to, if they don't come all the way down to the ground. A reminder that restorative yoga is about restoring balance to our nervous system, and we do that by completely supporting the body in these poses. So as you're ready to settle into the supported back bend, your shoulder blades should just be gently giving the blanket a hug. We'll be here for a while, so settle in. If something changes and shifts over time, as you're resting in a pose, you're certainly welcome to shift and change and make any accommodations that your body needs to feel completely supported. You were just letting the body take the breath that it needs. No need to move it in any certain shape or to make it particularly deep. We might get curious about the space we're creating along the front of the body. And just simply notice where the breath goes as you breathe in, and where it comes from as you breathe out. Noticing as the body softens into the shape of the props over time, gently softening, gently releasing. We'll be here for 2 more cycles of breath. As you're ready to gather your arms closer down by your sides. We can bend at the elbows and press down into the elbows, press down into the backs of the arms. Bend the knees, and then gently roll yourself off of that blanket roll. We'll come back up just so that we can rearrange our props and move into our next pose. Our next pose is going to be working on opening the front, the anterior hips, or the front of the pelvis. And we can get there either by using the bolster or perhaps using the blanket roll itself. And you can decide what's going to feel best to you. I'm going to give the bolster a try, but then I may need to shift into the roll, so I'm going to have that handy nearby. This bolster or roll You could even use a block on its low side here, so that would work as well. This is gonna go underneath your pelvis. So the bolster is a pretty big lift, but I'm gonna see if, this is gonna work for me. Let's scoot this back a little further. So the pelvis goes on top of your prop. The shoulders will come back and down. Use your arms to help you get there. I'm right at the cat. Don't want to disturb him too much, but I do want to move that out of the way so I can get my head flat down onto the ground. There we go. The pelvis is up on top of the prop, whatever it is that you're using. I'm straightening out the legs, and you can see that's greatly opening up across the front of the hip. If that's comfortable for you, stay there. Pay attention, especially in the low back. We don't want to get any pinching. I'm feeling just a little bit, so I'm going to shift my bolster and see if that alleviates that. We want to allow the pelvis, yes, that's much better. Allow the pelvis to tilt forward here. And the arms can simply drape down by your sides. Now, if you feel that you'd like more chest opening, of course, the arms could come further away, or perhaps cactus arms, or perhaps even taking the arms all the way overhead. My cat becomes a nice prop there to hold my arms up, but I don't think he's going to like that, so I'm going to leave my arms by my sides. Settle in and give yourself a few breaths to notice how this feels. We want to feel a gentle opening across the front of the pelvis, but nothing that's too intense. We don't want to feel any pinching in the back, so if that's happening, change out your prop, or you could even lie flat onto the mat as well. I'm feeling like I might like a little bit of support for my neck, so I'm going to come back up and use my blanket roll just to fill the space between the ground and my neck. In that case, I'm going to open it out so that it's only about half. So you're settling into that shape. That's perfect with the roll underneath my neck. And then you're deciding where you're comfortable. We'll be here for just a short amount of time. Again, this is a nice practice to do perhaps at the end of the day. If you have had to be sitting for any length of time, seated. In this way, we're gently unfolding the body. Allow your breath to simply move in the rhythm that it needs to support you being here in this space. But once again, you can get curious about the breath as simply an observer. Noticing where the breath goes as you inhale and where it comes from as you exhale. Here for 2 more cycles of breath. As you're ready to begin to bend the knees. We can either lift the hips and remove the prop if you have a smaller prop, or if that feels okay. or roll to the side. We'll come back down onto the back, like the knees touch together here with your hips down onto your mat, and we'll stay here for a breath or two. As you're ready to, rolling onto your side, shifting, lifting just long enough to be able to move into our next pose. And the next pose that we're working with is going to be side lying. Now you could do this either with our accordion folded blankets, probably 2 stacked on top of each other would be a good idea. Or you can do this with the bolster, and you can decide how high up you want it to be. We're going to be side lying. So we'll be placing our rib cage onto the bolster or onto the blankets. And then we'll need something here. A block is usually just the right height in order to help us stay lifted. The side of the head will go onto the block, and then the arm will thread through. We want to make sure to lengthen, especially I'm a little short-waisted, so I'm going to get really close to the bolster and then lengthen to come up and all the way over it. My head is going to come down onto the block, so the head is draping off to the side just a little bit. And then once you get here, make your legs happy. You could use any kind of blanket or block or anything that you need to soften that space for your feet and for your legs. The arm here, you can see that I'm reaching straight out. Top arm can come up and over. It might feel good to stretch it all the way out. I've got some blankets here that I can pull in and place my hand onto to let it rest there. If that feels like too much of a stretch or too much of an effort, you could bend at the elbow. You could even bring the arm down to rest on your side. That's fine too. Go to the place that feels comfortable for you. If anything changes or shifts, you can always change your mind and reposition yourself. And closing the eyes if that feels comfortable to you. Allowing your body to settle into this shape that it's being gently held in. The bolster or blanket lifting the rib cage up from the bottom, and you can feel the top side of the rib cage fanning open. Just a minimal effort to be here in this place, resting in this shape. There's no need to move the breath in any big way, but we might enjoy visualizing that the breath is weaving itself in between the ribs. We'll be here for a few more cycles of breath. One more cycle of breath here. As you're ready to bring the arm back down if it was overhead, press into the hands to help support you back up to the top. And we'll change sides. You can do as you like, flip around to the other side or move your props, whatever works best for you. Again, your bolster or your blanket is going to be supporting the rib cage, and you can be in complete control of how much lift you're getting. I'm going to shift this to the other side because that was a nice support for my arm as it came over top. Again, if your shoulder doesn't enjoy that big lift, that big stretch, then leave the arm down by your side. And you'll want to make choices based on what you find as you're on that particular side, not feeling that we need to do exactly the same thing from one side to the other. So if it feels good, resting the arm on your side. If it feels good, taking it overhead. Enjoying the lift of the rib cage from the bolster or the blanket. We can once again visualize that the breath is weaving in between the ribs, creating space where space is needed. We'll be here in this place for 2 more cycles of breath. As you're ready to, bringing the arm back down, pressing down into the hands to support you back up. Just only momentarily, so we can shift into our final pose of the practice. You'll have options here. If you're close to a wall and would like to practice legs up the wall, you can do that. In that case, you might like to have a yoga belt or strap, or maybe even using a scarf that you could use around the legs in order to hold them together. So I've got my bolster, and I think I'm gonna practice legs up the bolster, similar to legs up the wall, but not quite a big lift. Additionally, as I look at this mantle, you could practice constructive rest pose. In that case, you might like to have a chair, or this height would do, to place the legs up onto. The knees would be bent at 90 degrees, bent at the hips, and then legs resting up onto that elevated surface. So for legs up the bolster, I'm going to place my bolster a long ways on the mat, and I think I'm even going to bring my blanket up here too. I'm going to see what that lift feels like. Slide it down a little bit more. I'll be using my other blanket in a small roll for my neck, and then with the blanket that you have left, actually I'll roll it with the fringe in, because with the blanket that you have left, you'll be able to use that over top of the head if you'd like to create either a little helmet or something perhaps to cover your eyes. So coming down into legs up the bolster, I'm going to place my hips pretty close to the bolster just so that my legs can be comfortable on top. I'll need to move this away from me just a bit. I'll roll the roll and scrunch it just a little bit so that the roll is simply filling the space between my neck and the floor and not really pushing my neck up. If you've got extra blanket across the top, looks like I've got just a little bit there, you could use that across the eyes if that feels good. You might even like to tuck it in and create a kind of a little helmet, a helmet of restoration, if you will, tucking it in around the ears, and just whatever feels comfortable to you. The arms can rest where they feel comfortable, either by your sides, or perhaps it feels more comfortable to rest the arms over the abdomen. I think I'm going to take that option today. We're feeling the body completely supported by our props, and certainly making any adjustments that you need to. in order to feel more support. As we settle into this shape, you're making any adjustments that will make you feel more comfortable. And if anything changes over time as you're holding in this pose, resting in this pose, certainly feel free to make those changes that you need. Making the most minimal effort possible, almost no effort for the body to hold itself up. And invite your body to recognize that support. Feel the bolster underneath your legs. Feel the mat, the ground underneath your hips and back. Perhaps blanket under the neck or behind the head. Invite your body to lean into the support. I'm going to leave you here in this pose so that you can decide how long you'd like to stay, how much time you have today. 5 minutes, 10 minutes is wonderful when you have it. 15 could be particularly beneficial to begin to shift brain waves. So if you have 15 minutes to stay, definitely give that a try. I thank you so much for your time here today. I thank you for your attention and your presence. Namaste.